What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can build an entire hotel concierge chatbot to help customers in booking hotels. So here I've deployed the chatbot to bookings.com and here's a demo. So I'll click on the chat bubble. You can see even the customized branding for bookings.com. So welcome to Hotel Concierge, how can I help you today? So let's say I want to go to the Savoy in London. Let's see what you have for me. That sounds like a fantastic choice. The Savoy Hotel in London is a wonderful place to stay. Now let's talk about your trip date. When were you thinking of traveling? So let's say from Friday to Monday next week. So you can see there, great, I'm excited to help you plan your stay at the Savoy. Okay, from Friday to Monday. Then you see it gives me some images of the Savoy Hotel. Exciting. Then you can view the image. When you click on that, it opens a new tab where you'll see the actual image. But you can go ahead and make a booking. Okay. Good news, I have successfully booked your room at the Savoy Hotel in London for your travel period. That's from July 5th to 8th of July, and notice that it's been able to capture the actual dates. Then it gives me back my booking ID. Is there anything else I can assist you with? I think I'm okay. Then if you go to Airtable where the bookings are being stored, you'll see it there. So you see the booking has been recorded and you can see the booking ID is 12 according to what the chatbot has said. So how can you be able to build this for yourself? Let me show you. So here I am in the Voiceflow project and I have two workflows in place. So I'll just go through the workflow to show you the nitty-gritties, what went into the thought process of putting some blocks in, and you'll be able to even to understand the complexities of working with Voiceflow functions. So I'll enter the home workflow. So it starts by first initializing some variables through JavaScript. So here you can see there's a user, which is Mutiso Madime, their likes, the things they like, their dislikes. You can be able to save the variables in place, the user also, okay, then even the past trips that they've had. So what we are trying to simulate is in an actual scenario, when you're working with an actual hotel concierge website, they'll have these details, let's say in their CRM. So before the Voiceflow chatbot launches, all these details can be pulled from the CRM, all those details of the logged in user. So we'll get their name, we'll get the trips they've gone to and what they liked about them, their dislikes. All this we can make an API call and get the details first, then pass these details to the chatbot before anything of the flow starts. Okay, so even the past trips can be obtained from the CRM. Then we have it there in a JSON object, so you can see the destination, the hotel they went to and the rating they provided, even the review they gave. Okay, so you can have all these details, and even the friends hotel recommendations. So if they had friends and they visited some hotel and gave some recommendation, you can see Sarah there. So this is just trying to give that personalized experience. The point of this hotel concierge chatbot is it to provide a personalized experience in helping in bookings. So if we can able to pull in all this data from the CRM, it makes the responses more relevant to that specific user. So you see friend hotel recommendations and they're all there. Even restaurant recommendations from those friends, you can see them there. The name of the restaurant, the review, and some tags, all that. So we obtain that, have it in a JSON. Okay, and some of these variables you have to have them created in your Voiceflow project. So for example, this user likes, ensure you have them created in your Voiceflow project. Okay, so next we give the welcoming message, then we listen for an intent. So this is just a text block that we've put here. Then we listen for an intent. So I've created an intent for booking hotels. So here's the intent actually. So if we go back here to content, then we see the intents that we have created. One of it is the booking hotel intent. It has the following utterances. I want to book a hotel in Melbourne. I want to book a hotel, the hotel that Rachel stayed at in London. Book the Langham again. I want to stay at the Ritz. These are example of statements that the user will mention, and this will tell the chatbot that they want to book a hotel. So you can see the description here. Okay, trigger this intent when the user expresses a desire to book or reserve a hotel room, either by mentioning a specific hotel name, location, or referencing a previous stay. This intent should also be triggered when the user asks about where a friend has stayed before, whether they ask directly about a specific hotel, city, or vaguely inquire about their friend's past accommodations. It could also include just asking to book a trip to a city. Okay, so this description is critical because we are using the LLM intent classification. So as you're familiar, there are two ways you can classify intents. If you go here to settings, it can either be through the LLM or the NLU. Okay, so this NLU, natural language understanding, was the previous way of how the chatbot was able to detect the intent in the user statement. It was a bit limited in terms of how accurate it is, but LLMs come in place and they are way better in detecting the intents. Okay, they consume tokens, that's a downside, but you get more accurate intent classification. Okay, so the thing is also that when you use the LLM, it's not that the NLU is not being used in the background. So the LLM intent classification overshadows the NLU. Or let's say the NLU detects that this intent is for, let's say, making a payment, but the LLM detects that this intent is for making a booking. The LLM will overshadow whatever the NLU decided. Okay, but also the NLU is there in the background just in case the LLM fails to identify the intent. It falls back to whatever the NLU detected. Okay, so let's close that, but also ensure that you've selected LLM over here. Then you can pick the model that you want to work with. I'll work with the 3.5 Turbo, but the more powerful model you use, the more accuracy. Okay, so now let's go back to the booking workflow. So if you go to booking a hotel, okay, so you see here it's being triggered from the intent of booking a hotel. So you can see that's the trigger that's triggering this workflow, and that's just the intent, okay, of book a hotel. Then before starting anything, we want to capture the current date. So you can see here, this is just JavaScript code. I know the no code, low code builders are like, oh, that's code, but it's quite simple. So, and you'll also find this template. I'll provide it all with access to the code and everything, so don't worry about that. So here we get the current date from this function, then we get the year, the month, and the day. Then we are able to get the actual day of the week, the actual number of the day of the week. So whether if it's Sunday, let's say that will be 0, Monday 1, and the likes. Then we want to return and format the date in the form of ISO date format, the standard where you have the year, then the month, then the day. Okay, then whatever we do, we return that specific date, the formatted date, and save it to this variable current date. So this variable, I've gone ahead and created it in my Voiceflow project, where you'll go ahead and create that on your side. Okay, so then we go to our set AI step here. Set AI steps are quite powerful. We use it a lot in this project, and it will help us in generating the AI responses. So here's the prompt. In this situation, we want to see whether in the conversation history we've just had with the user, have they in any place mentioned the city and hotel they want to go to. Okay, so you can see the prompt. You're a city and state extraction system. Correctness is a life or death situation. That's a trick also. You can use that. It helps in having the AI be more careful in getting accurate responses or accurate predictions. Given a conversation history between the user and the agent, your task is to extract the city and state mentioned by either the user or the agent. If the user confirms a city mentioned by the agent, consider it as the user's intended city. If no city is found, respond with 0. Okay? If a city is found but no state is mentioned, provide only the city name. Note, if there's already a city in the variable, so you're seeing I'm putting $sign just to indicate this is a variable. In the variable city, you don't need to amend it unless the user or the agent specifically mentions a different city in the conversation history. And also we'll provide this conversation history at the end, you'll see. Here are some examples. So when the user says, I want to visit Paris, France next summer, it extracts Paris. They say, I'm planning a trip to New York City, it extracts New York City. If they say they'd want to go to Seattle, Washington, Seattle, Washington is a city. Okay, so we're trying to give it as many examples as possible. Then also a negative example, the weather is nice today, it should return 0. Okay, so you want to give it as many positive and negative examples so that it knows how to navigate different scenarios. Okay, so the Savoy, here's an example of an actual conversation. The Savoy is a fantastic hotel in London. This is the AI saying this, so that's why you're seeing assistant representing A. The Savoy is a fantastic hotel in London. Would you like me to check the availability for your trip? The user says, yes, that sounds great. Then the AI will return London as the city. Now take a deep breath and extract the city and state from the conversation history. Then we say the user says this. Then we pass in the conversation history. This is a default variable in Voiceflow, so you'll just do curly brackets, then VF, then you'll see VF memory. So that will contain the conversation history. Then you see the answer is now the assistant to provide their response. Okay, so then we apply whatever the assistant gives back as a response to the variable called city. You'll go ahead and create this variable on your side. Then the next part is extracting the hotel. Okay, so it's a similar prompt to this, so I won't go through the entirety of it. But it's just similar, just tweaked so that you can now extract the hotel. Okay, you can pause and go ahead and read the prompt, but also you'll find it in the template that I'll provide, link in the description. Okay, so once it extracts the hotel, it saves it to the variable hotel. Okay, so now next is an if statement that checks if they've provided the city and the hotel, go to this path. If they've only provided the city, take this path. If they only provided the hotel, takes this path. If they've provided nothing, take this path. That's why you're seeing 4 paths there. And just to enter the actual condition you're seeing is if city is not 0, so that means it's not empty, and hotel is not 0, so both of them are not empty, follow the first path. Okay, which is that they've only picked the city, so city is not 0, is not empty, but the hotel is 0. So if the hotel is empty and the city is not empty, okay, then the next one is hotel only. Okay, so if the hotel is not empty but the city is empty, okay, then the final one is a no match. So you'll add a no match and add a path for that, for the else condition. So if only the city was extracted, let's go to this flow, which is now a set AI step. Here's a prompt. You're a friendly and helpful hotel recommendation chatbot for Hotel Concierge. The task is to provide personalized hotel suggestions based on the user's preference, past trips, friends' recommendations, and the conversation history. And all this will provide in the prompt. Engage in a natural conversational manner while providing the most relevant information. Okay, so you will pass in the conversation history, the city the user wants to stay. We've already extracted this before. Then here are the available JSON objects containing user preferences, past trips, and friends recommendations. Then we pass the variables in there, and it's critical that you ensure these are stringified. That's what you see at the beginning of the flow. If you go back to home, then I enter the JavaScript, you can notice that I'm stringifying these variables before passing them to the prompt. So you can see the user is being stringified, the past trips, also the friends, hotel recommendations, and so on and so forth. So going back, so after providing those variables, we say now let's analyze the conversation and provide a helpful response based on the following guidelines. So we give you some guidelines. If the user asks about their own past stays in a specific city, search for a matching past trip in the past trips array, which we're providing over here in the past trips array. Then if a match is found, mention the hotel they stayed at and provide a brief summary of their experience in a conversational tone. If no match is found, acknowledge that you couldn't find any records of their past stays in that city and offer to help find a hotel based on their preferences. If the user asks about their friend's stay in a specific city, search for a matching friend recommendation in the friends recommendation array. If a match is found, mention the hotel their friend stayed at and provide a brief summary of their friend's experience in a conversational tone. If no match is found, acknowledge that you couldn't find any records of their friends staying in that city and offer to recommend hotels based on the user's preferences. Okay, then giving more guidelines. If the user's query doesn't match any specific patterns, express your enthusiasm to help them find the perfect hotel for their stay in the specific city, in the specified city. Ask the user to share their preferences, such as the type of accommodation they are looking for, any must-have amenities, or their budget. Encourage the user to provide as many details as possible to help you tailor your recommendation to their needs. Remember to incorporate the city name when discussing past trips, friend recommendations, or offering to find hotels. Summarize past experiences or friend reviews in a conversational and engaging tone. Show enthusiasm and willingness to help the user find the perfect hotel for their trip. Keep the conversation natural, friendly, and focus on the user's needs. Your response must be brief and focus on booking a hotel. If you mention a hotel, you should ask a yes or no question to try get the user book it. Don't mention tags in your response. So the tags are available in the JSON response, if you can remember, in the actual JavaScript. Okay, your response must be brief and focus on booking a hotel. If you mention a hotel, you should ask a yes or no question to try to get the user to book it. Make sure your response is in perfect cohesion with the conversation. You must never mention a hotel that doesn't exist in either the past trips or friends hotel recommendation arrays. Okay, and notice here, this is critical. Make sure your response is in perfect cohesion with the conversation. So it should ensure it's checking through the conversation history that's being provided in this variable VF memory, and ensuring whatever it's giving as a response is in cohesion with whatever has been mentioned earlier. Okay, then here, this is just a text step to provide the response from the AI. Then we wait to capture the user's response to the capture variable. Whatever they say, we then return them to book a hotel up here. So this block over here is going to be the central point after the AI gives the response and the user sends back the response. Okay, so you can see this is an action of going to this specific block. Okay, so if it's just a hotel only, okay, so if just the hotel only was obtained and not the city, we go to this flow. So it's just similar to the above one. You're a friendly and helpful hotel recommendation chatbot. Your task is to provide personalized hotel suggestion based on the user's past trips, their friends' recommendation, and their conversation history. Engage in a natural and conversational manner while providing the most relevant information. So we provide the variables just as before, but in this case, you're seeing we're providing the hotel, not the city. Okay, here are the available JSON objects we provided in there. Now let's analyze the data and provide the most relevant recommendation based on the following guidelines. Okay, 1. If the user has stayed at the specified hotel before, found in the past trips, generate a positive reaction to their previous stay. Mention the destination where they stayed at the hotel. Briefly summarize the user's review of the hotel. Ask if they would like to book the same hotel again for the upcoming trip. So then the next guideline is, if the user's friends have recommended the specified hotel found in that specific variable, generate a positive confirmation of the hotel choice. State which friend had a great experience at that hotel. Briefly summarize the friend's review. Then ask if the user would like to check the availability of the hotel for their trip. Thirdly, if the specified hotel is not found in the user's past trips or friends' recommendations, generate a confirmation phrase to acknowledge the user's hotel choice. Ask the user where the hotel is located. Express, so here's where we were able to get the city. That's critical. Okay, so ask the user where the hotel is located. Express your willingness to check availability once you note the city. Remember to, now these are some cautioning. Keep the response brief and focus on confirming the hotel choice and offering to assist with the booking. Mention relevant details from past trips or friend recommendations. Ask a yes or no question to encourage the user to make a reservation. don't begin your message with hello or hi. This is some cautioning we realized when we were testing out the chatbot. Keep the conversation natural and friendly. Make sure your response is in perfect cohesion with the conversation. Now give back a response. So we're putting in a, then the colon, because it's just the pattern we have trained the chatbot on. Okay, so then save the response to the variable agent hotel response. You'll go ahead and create that. Also in the prompt settings, nothing major, just a temperature. You can leave it at default, then the maximum tokens are default. Okay, so going back here, so then we'll capture their response to the capture block. Okay, then we forward them back to the booking a hotel block. Okay, so you can notice it's similar to above here. Then if no hotel or city was mentioned, we'll follow this else path. Okay, and that else path goes here. So please let me know where you'd like to go, so they can now give their details. So capture the user's response through a capture block, then send them back to the booking a hotel block. Okay, so if now we've been able to obtain both the city and the hotel from whatever they've mentioned through this flow, whether this or down here, we're able now to move on and get the exact dates. Okay, so we'll check. Maybe in their conversation they had mentioned, I want to go to the Savoy Hotel in London from Friday to Monday next week, and they had actually mentioned their dates. Okay, so we want to classify and extract those dates. So here's the set AI step for that. You're a date classification system. Your task is to analyze the entire conversation history to determine whether it contains a specific date, a relative date, a week without a specific day, or a date range, or no date information at all. Correctness is crucial. Or you can even say it's a life or death situation. The current date is this, which we're able to get in this step over here, if you can remember, in the JavaScript step over here. When providing the extracted date, week, or date range, always include the year. If the user mentions a date that has already passed based on the current date, assume they are referring to the next occurrence of that date in the future. And this is where you noticed when we were testing the chatbot, we didn't explicitly say we want to go from July 2nd to July 5th. We just said from Friday to Monday next week. And the chatbot was clever enough to extract and know this is July 2nd to July 5th. Okay, so this prompt is what is helping in that. Okay, so if the user mentions a date that has already passed, for example, if the current date is in June and the user says 21st of March, assume they mean March 21st of the following year. We provide you with the following action classifications and their descriptions. First, the description is when the conversation history contains a specific date for booking, e.g. 21st of June 2024, the assistant will return specific date. When the conversation history contains a relative date for booking, e.g. next Thursday, the assistant will say relative date. When the conversation history contains a week without specifying the day, it will return week only. Then when the conversation history contains a date range for booking, for example from the 21st until the 30th, the assistant will return date range. When the conversation history does not contain any date information, return no date. Okay, so given the conversation history, classify it into one of the above actions based on the description. Respond with the action class followed by a colon and the extracted date, week, or date range in a readable format including the year. If the conversation history does not match any of the action descriptions, output no date. Now let's proceed with the classification. Okay, now we give it some examples. This is called multi-shot prompting. So if the user says I want to book a room for the 25th of December 2024, give back specific date and the specific date, okay, and so on and so forth. You can see some examples there. Can I make a reservation for next Friday? This is a relative date, and that's next Friday, June 30th, 2023. So these are some more examples you can follow along and see. Here's an example for a conversation history. So if the agent says, okay, so I've got next Thursday as the start date, which would be June 30th, 2024. How exciting. And when were you thinking of ending your trip at the Savoy? The user says on Saturday. Then the assistant will return date range June 13th 2024 to June 16th 2024. So now here's we provide the conversation history and tell the AI to go ahead and give back the captured date. Then we save that date to a variable called captured date. On your side, you'll go ahead and create that variable. Then in the prompt settings, nothing major, just the default stuff. And notice if you have access to the GPT-4 or GPT-4 Turbo, that will work better, but expect it to cost more tokens. Okay. So now it's an if statement to get whatever the AI captured. So if the captured date contains date range, because this is what we want to get a date range. Okay. If captured date contains the word date range, we can move on to this specific flow. If not, so we add an else path through this no match. So add a path there, you click plus, then else. So next here is we start with a set AI, and this set AI is to entice the user to provide the entire date range, that is the start date and the end date of their trip. So your task is to act as a friendly travel assistant chatbot. You've been provided with the following potential start date and the user is considering for their trip. So we provide the captured date there. Then this is today's date. If the user provides a start date, either specific date, relative date or week only format, confirm if this date is correct. Phrase your confirmation in a friendly conversational way such as, okay, so I've got start date as a start date, a start question. Then when referencing the start date in your confirmation, if the start date provided is in the specific date format, simply state the date. If the start date is in the relative date format, explain in natural language what that relative date means. For example, today, tomorrow, 2 days from now, next Friday, etc. And then also state the actual calendar date it corresponds to. If the start date is in the week only format, e.g. next week, that is week of July 3rd 2023, confirm the week and then ask the user which specific day of that week they plan to start their trip. For example, great, so you're planning to travel during the week of Monday, July 3rd. Which day of that week were you thinking of starting your trip? So you can have which day of that week. If the user asks a question not directly related to the trip dates, for example, weather, attractions, etc., provide a friendly and helpful answer to the question, then try to guide the conversation back to confirming their trip dates. For example, if they ask about the weather in June, you could say something like, the weather in June is usually warm and sunny with average temperature around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a great time to visit. Were you thinking of planning your trip for June? You see how we're trying to entice them and push them towards stating their dates. If the user's input does not contain any information about their trip dates, that is in captured date, okay, so this is captured date, if captured date is no date, try to steer the conversation towards discussing their travel plans. For example, you could say, I'd be happy to help you plan your trip. When were you thinking of traveling? After confirming the start date and specific day of week, if applicable, ask the user what date they plan to end their stay. Phrase this in a natural, friendly way, such as, and when were you thinking of ending your trip? Or, how long were you planning to stay? Remember, your goal is to be a helpful, friendly, easy to talk travel assistant. Engage in a natural back and forth dialogue to gather the information you need to assist the user. Keep your language casual and upbeat. Okay, here's the start date the user provided again. So this is meant to be captured date. And here's the hotel they're planning to book. Provide the hotel in the specific city. And here's the conversation history from the VF memory variable. Go ahead and respond to the user, keeping in mind their latest input and the guidelines provided above. Make sure your response is in perfect cohesion with the conversation. There is no need to respond with things like great, sure, every time. You must be natural, speaking like a helpful human, not a helpful chatbot. Then save that specific response to the age date response, which will now send back as a text message to the user. Then we wait to capture their response, which can be their actual date. Then we lead it back to the extract date block over here. Then if everything is okay, means we have gotten the start date and the end date, it will forward to this flow. Okay, so now this is meant to separate the start date and the end date and save them to specific variables. So the first one is extracting the start date. You're a date extraction system. Your task is to extract the first date from a given range and convert it to ISO format. This is how ISO format is. The date range is provided in the following format. Then your task is to extract the start date from the date range and convert it to ISO format. Now let's proceed with the extraction. Here's the date range. So the extracted start date in ISO format will be this. Okay, so we are giving it some examples. This is multi-shot prompting. Then if the date range is this, okay, the extracted start date in ISO format will be this, and so on and so forth. So finally we tell them the date range the provided is this. Now provide the actual start date in ISO format. Then we save that specific variable to a variable we've created called start date. On your side, go ahead and create that variable. Then this is similar to the above, but now it's for obtaining the end date. Okay, so extracted end date in ISO format, then save it to the variable called end date. So now it's checking. We go to a function to check the availability. So this function, I'll go through it, takes in some input variables and outputs some output variables. Okay, so let's go to the actual function. So this is how our Voiceflow function starts. It always starts with the following. It's an asynchronous function. Okay, at the beginning, it's good practice to obtain the actual inputs that will be the actual variables that you'll be using through the function. So you can see we're obtaining the destination, which is a hotel, and the Airtable token that we'll use to access the Airtable database. Okay, so, and you can notice over here, ensure you create those input variables. So you'll come here and click plus and enter the actual name of the variable. So let's say destination. Okay, but we already have it here, so I'll minus it, and Airtable token. Okay, then you'll state the output variables that you want to be returned. So vibe, sports, date, and the name. Okay, then some paths. So for when there's a success, for when there's no record found that matches the user's requirements, then our final path for error. Okay, and you'll see how this plays out in the actual function. It's quite easy, don't worry. So I know the low code people are about to scream right now. They're like, what? That's a lot of code. But don't worry, I'll explain everything. So we first start with a try catch block. So try the following code. Okay, all that. If there's an error, follow this path. So catch the error, then send it back to the console for us to be able to debug it. Okay, so let's first start if there's a successful one. Okay, so first we start with sending an API call to Airtable. We're using await fetch over here to make the API call, and for this you can see I'm passing in the exact URL here. How you're able to get this URL is you go to your Airtable database. I'll show you. Here's the Airtable database. Okay, and it has some tables. First table is for the bookings. So when successful bookings happen, they'll be saved here. Then the next one is for hotels. So you can see these are the hotels we currently have: the Hoxton, Savoy, the Regal, and the spots they have, the vibe of the hotel, the date that the spots are available. Okay, then we have some images of the actual hotels. So you can see we have images for the Savoy, 3 of them, images for the Hoxton, 3 of them, same to the Regal. Okay, so that's how it's structured. Okay, so if you want to obtain the URL to call the API, so click on that, your profile, then build a hub. Okay, so first you want to create an access token. So create new token, give it a name, can be whatever it is. Okay, then add a scope. Ensure you add all these scopes that are here. After adding all them, you want to add a base. This is the database that you want to call. Mine is called Hotel Concierge. You'll add that, then you'll click create new token. But since I already have one, I won't create that. Copy it and save it somewhere because you'll need it in your Voiceflow project. So then I go ahead and click developer docs over here. Scroll down till you see web API. Click on API docs. And this is why I like Airtable. They make it their documentation so superb, such that it's easy to call their API and work with it. So you'll scroll down and click the database you want to work with. hotel concierge. You can notice my French accent is excellent. Concierge. So here you can see if you want to access the bookings table, you'll click on that and you'll see the specific ways where you can call the specific API. Okay, and you see the examples over here. But in our case right now, we want to check the hotels table. Okay, then we want to list the records from that specific table, so we'll use this specific URL that's provided over here. So we'll copy that from that till there, then go back to your Voiceflow and you'll paste it in there. Okay, so you can see I've pasted in there. Then the method is a get request, and you pass in the access token you've just created over there. Okay, and this will be able to provide it to the Voiceflow project back here. So let me go to the workflow. In the actual function over here, I pass in the actual API, the access token that has been provided over there, and I also pass in the destination as a hotel we have obtained and pass it in there as a variable. Okay, so with that, let's just go back to the function. So now it will get back the response. Okay, so you can see we get the response and turn it into JSON format. Then next we check if there's an actual response that was gotten and it has some records. If so, do the following. If not, it means it wasn't able to get any records, so it will exit the function by doing a return and going through the specific path, which is no record found. So this is how you're able to follow a specific path in your function. So you pass in the next variable, then the path you pass in no record found, and ensure that path has been explicitly stated at the right hand side over here. Then you can pass in some trace. So a trace in Voiceflow is like whatever is being rendered into the Voiceflow chatbot. If it's a text message, it can be a carousel, it can be some buttons, it can even be that debug text that you see when you're running the chatbot in the canvas. Okay, so you can see here we're doing a trace of type debug. Then the message to give is no hotel records found for the following destination. These are the records returned. So I was returning this so that I see what's actually being returned, and I ensure I stringify it so that it can be able to pass through the message. Okay, so but let's assuming everything worked, we'll go back here. So we obtain the records by first filtering the records that match the specific hotel. So we're doing records.filter, filter the records where the name of that specific hotel matches the hotel destination that we've provided. Okay, so you can see if you go back to the Airtable, here you can see we're trying to see the record where the specific name of that record, which is this specific column, matches the hotel the user has mentioned they want to go to. Okay, so that's the meaning of this code. Okay, so once you get the records, we want to format those records and give back a relevant JSON object. So for that we use records.map, map each specific record and return the following object. Okay, so the first will be the name. Okay, and the name is in the record.fields.name. And just to show you what is actually being returned, you can make an API call using this through Postman and see what's being returned. Okay, so you can have your Postman app here and run a get request there to see what's being returned. Okay, but I won't do that. So this is how it's being returned. Then whatever is being returned now, we check if the formatted records.length is greater than 0, meaning we have gotten a hotel that matches the user's request. We now obtain the name, date, spots, and the vibe of that specific hotel, and we're getting that from the formatted records of index 0. We're doing index 0 because we are assured that in our records here we'll only have one record that has matching the destination the user has mentioned they want to go to. So it's only one record that will be returned. We don't have two hotels here called the Savoy, so we can be confident to use formatted records of index 0. Okay, then now here's the key part, is we now exit the function by returning the following. So first we return the output variables, name, date, sports, and vibe, and you can see them here. We've been able to state them explicitly in the right tab over here. And notice I'm just saying name like that, but in actual sense this is name is equals to name, date is equals to date, but JavaScript shorthand says that since both of them, the key and the value, are similar, you can just state it as is, like that. Okay, so after doing that, follow the path of success, showing that the function was successful. Then return a trace of type debug, so send a debug text showing that obtained hotel records successfully. Okay, so but if formatted records.length is 0, means the records, the hotels returned, there's no hotel that matches what the user has asked for, we go through this specific path. Okay, so we return and follow the path of no record found, then we provide the following trace. So this is the trace we provide. You can provide as many traces as you want, so it can be a comma, then another trace of type something, you can do that, and that's why this is an array. Okay, you can notice it's an array, not just an object. So type debug, then we say no hotel records found for the following destination. It can be the Savoy, it can be the Regal, then these are the records required. So I was returning this just to do some more debugging, okay, as I was playing around and testing the chatbot. Okay, so else, so if, so there's a bigger if statement over here. So you can see this if statement, if the JSON response was actually not empty and the JSON response.records is not empty, do that. Otherwise, follow this path, same thing as before. So pass and follow the path of error. Now this is following the path of error, which is over here. Then we provide some traces. Okay, the trace is of type debug, and the message is that failed to retrieve hotel records. Then we pass in the specific error message. Okay, so same case here for the catch block, it catches the error. So whatever error happens in this function over here should be captured over here through this catch block, and we pass in the specific, we pass through the path of error. Okay, then we go through, we pass the trace of type debug and that specific error message. Okay, so here it was having some issues when I was testing it out, where the Airtable token was saying undefined, so I had to print it out to see what's actually being returned. But now we don't need that, that's okay. So yeah, you can go ahead and you can be able to, we go back to the workflow. So you see here, you can see the various paths: success, no record found, and error. So if it's a success, move on, but if it's no record found or error, follow to this path: error, no record found. Then let's see if it's a success. If it's a success, we'll use another set AI step to present the hotels to the user. Okay, so this is the response we are getting before the actual carousel that was displaying the hotel images. Okay, so your task is to act as a friendly travel assistant chatbot. You've been provided with the following information about the user's trip, the hotel, city, and travel period. Now that you have confirmed the user's hotel choice and travel period, your goal is to present them with available room options and assist them in finding the perfect room for their stay. Begin by expressing your enthusiasm for their chosen hotel. For example, if they're traveling during the summer, you could say something like, excellent choice, the hotel in city is a fantastic place to stay, and the summer months are a wonderful time to visit. The weather is usually warm and sunny, perfect for exploring the city and enjoying outdoor activities. Similarly, you could also say something like this. If they're traveling during the winter, you could say, great decision. The hotel in city is a cozy and inviting place to stay during the winter. So we're giving more examples there. Next, let the user know that you've found an available room and the pictures are in the carousel below. Note, this is being shown outside of this prompt, so don't try and display any. Then ask the user if they'd like to make a booking. Select the make a booking button, which we'll have over here. You can see it here below. Okay, here is a summary of the user's trip details, the hotel, city, travel period. We're giving it to it again because there's this thing where if the prompt is long, sometimes details that were provided above might get forgotten. So we want to reiterate those details. And here's the conversation history so far. Go ahead and respond to the user confirming their trip details and presenting the available rooms. Make sure your response is in perfect cohesion with the previous conversation. Remember, don't mention anything about the rooms as you don't have this information. So apply whatever the AI response, give it and save it to the agent hotel response. Okay, which we already created and use it in a flow back here. Okay. So we'll display that message to the user through a text block. Then we now run a function to dynamically present the specific images to the user. So for this, we could use a carousel block as here. So that's in the talk step. Then we could use a carousel block over here. But this is so manual. You can imagine if there are several hotel images, does it mean you'll have to explicitly have many cards to represent all those images? That's so manual, so that won't work. So that's why we use a function block. Another option is using the custom action block, which also works very well. I also like it, but for this step we'll use the function block. Okay, so I'll click on the function and you can see the input variables that we'll need is the actual destination, which is the hotel, for example the Savoy, and this information is what we'll call the Airtable database over here. So you can see in the images we need the specific name of the hotel so that we get images that match that specific name. Okay, then we pass in our Airtable token that we had created. Then we go to the function. So in the function, first ensure that you've created the input variables over here. So you click the plus button and give the variable a name. Then before starting anything, as standard procedure is you obtain the actual variables and save it to specific variables. So this is how we obtain that. And you can see it's arguments.input variables. So the input variables are these ones over here. So we do the normal try catch block. So if it works, and if it doesn't work, capture the error and send a debug message. Okay, so here first we want to create an Airtable formula that will call the database and filter only the specific records that match the specific hotel name. Okay, so and we're using encode URI component because if you're inserting something into for example, this Airtable formula that will be generated, we're inserting it to this URL over here. Okay, this URL is in this case a URI. Okay, I know it sounds complex, but it's actually not. So before inserting anything into this URL, you want to ensure you encode it. Okay, so you want to encode URI component. Okay, if we were encoding the entire URL, now we'd use the encode URI function, but in this case we're just encoding a specific component of it, which is the Airtable formula, and passing it in there. Okay, so now we make an API call to that specific database, which is the images database, and this I'm getting all these URLs from the Airtable documentation. So if you remember, when you go back to the documentation here, I can go to I want to access the images table and I want to access the list records over here. So you can just copy this as is and use that. Okay, so that will work. So and it's a get request, and we pass in our authorization, which is our Airtable token. Then we want to turn the response into JSON. Okay, obtain the actual records because it will return a response, and the actual details that we need is in the variable called records. For you to see the actual structure, just make an API call with this through Postman so that you can see what's actually being returned to the user. So this is, you see, this is an example of what is being returned. So response.records, and this is where they meet the details that we actually need. Okay. So now we want to create some cards, which is a single card for every single image that's being returned, and that will be passed into the carousel. Okay. So for each record that's being returned, map it out, get that specific record, and return an object. This is the object that is critical. Okay. So the object has a title, a description, an image URL, and some buttons. If you're familiar with carousels, this is exactly what is needed: the title, the description, the image URL, and if you have some buttons. Okay. So for the title, we pass in the record.field name. The description, we just pass in the image URL. So a text message saying this is the image URL, and it's in a string. Then the actual image, we obtain it from the record.fields.url, and it's case sensitive, so ensure if this in your Airtable database. If I go back, you can notice my URL starts with a capital U, okay, capital N for the name. So if this was small, I ensure in my code it's in small letters. Okay, that's critical. So then we pass in some buttons. So in this case, we just have one button, which is that, and it has a name, which is called view image, and a payload, which has the following actions. Okay, so the action, ensure this is actions, not action. If you have it as action, it won't work. I had this issue when I was testing it out and running the chatbot. Okay, so ensure that's actions, encompassing a couple of actions. So the first action is of type open URL. This is built-in Voiceflow, so that you can automatically open that specific image, and the URL to open is that URL. Okay. Then after doing that, is now where we actually return everything for the function. So follow the path of success, saying that this function was successful. Then give back the following traces, and the trace is of type carousel. So we are returning a carousel which has the following cards. Okay, so we pass in the cards that we obtained here. Okay, so the cards is this one here that we created here, an array of cards. Okay, so now if there's an error, just capture the error, follow the path called error, then return a debug message. You can see some trace of type debug. Then the message is error getting the hotel images. Then we pass in the actual error message for debugging purposes. Okay, go back to the workflow. I know it's long, but it's quite profound and powerful. So if it's a success, now display the following buttons. So either make a booking button, and the next one is let's try something else if they don't agree with the hotel that's been suggested to them. Okay, and we attach an intent of yes. So you can attach a yes intent. So if they say yes or yeah or something in relation to a positive response, means they have just clicked the button make a booking. Okay, so if they say no or nah or I'm not sure, it's not good, that means they have just clicked the button let's try something else. Okay, so if they say let's try something else, take them back to the block of book a hotel, which is at the very beginning over here. Okay, you can remember this one over here. And as I mentioned, I think in a previous video, it's good practice to be naming your blocks so that you can quickly be jumping from block to block without having to drag the flow all the way to that block. Okay, so if they click make a booking, go here, and this function is what actually saves the details to the Airtable database, this specific table. So bookings, and you can see the bookings that have been created. Okay, so in this function it takes in some input variables, which is the hotel, the end date, the start date, the city, and the user's name, and this corresponds to the columns in the Airtable database. As you can see here, name, end date, hotel, start date, city. Okay, and finally the booking ID is auto generated. Okay, So if you go to our actual function and you see the output variables, I'm passing in the booking ID. So if you go to the actual function, you can see whatever we have mentioned is as is over here. So we can see the input variables, we have added them there, and the output variables is we want to return the booking ID and some two paths, one for if it was a successful creation of the record, and error if it wasn't successfully added to the database. Okay, then here's the function. So we first start by obtaining the actual input variables that will be used in the function. Then we send an API call to Airtable. Okay, this as I mentioned, we get it from the Airtable documentation. Then this is a post request, not a get request, because we are creating a new record. So pass in your Airtable token and ensure you have this, because now we'll be passing some JSON into the body of this request. Then we pass in the body, which is that fields, and ensure you stringify it, because this will be passed in through a request, an API request, and it has to be a string. So fields, these are the fields that you need to add. The name will be that name, city will be that city, start date will be that start date, and so on and so forth. Then we get the response returned, transform it into a JSON object. Then we go on. So if there's an actual response, or there's an actual response JSON.id, this means that there's an actual record that was created. It means follow the path of success and return the following output variables. Okay, and that booking ID we get it from response JSON.fields.booking ID. Then else, so if there are no records returned, meaning that the record wasn't successfully created in the Airtable database, follow the path of error, then return a debug message saying error creating new booking records. Then you pass in the actual message. Same case to here, just follow the path of error, then return a message saying error creating new booking record, then you pass in the error.message. And that's it. So what you can do is just run the chatbot, go back to home, press start. Welcome to Hotel Concierge. How can I help you today? So let's say in London. Okay, so you can see it notices that intent is booking hotel, so you can see it there, and you can notice that it's the LLM and the NLU both are actively listening, but the LLM always overshadows the NLU. Okay, see, that's a great choice. The Savoy in London is a wonderful hotel. When were you thinking of traveling? Then you can pass in your dates. So you can see it going through the flow. You can see it gives me back some images of the Savoy. Okay. Then I can click make a booking. Great. Your booking ID is 13. And if we go back to Airtable, here in the bookings, you can see it there. Booking 13 has been created. Anyways, that's it from me. Till next time, stay savvy. Peace.